Hello there, and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. Today, we're taking a look at the 1996 Nissan Silvia case Aero, the S14, one of several Silvias that we have to cover in this series, and thanks to the Gran Turismo 2 Plus mod, a lot of the confusion surrounding Silvias is gone. You see, for whatever reason, when Polyphony was regionalising the game, whether it be North American or PAL region, they decided to change quite a few of the Silvias into 200SXs or 240SXs, which didn't make any sense because they're still Silvias. They don't have the 2 litre or the 2.4 litre that a 240SX would have. They don't have that specific engine, they don't even really look like them too much. But for whatever reason, that's how they decided to regionalise them. However, in this case, this car is actually from the NTSC J regions, which means this car isn't in the North American release, and in the PAL release I believe this would have been replaced by the 1998 Nissan 200SX, which was actually a 200SX and wasn't just a renamed Silvia. You see why this was confusing? Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Front engined rear wheel drive, 400 horsepower, 1112 kilos of weight. We're going to see how quick it is going around 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track. It's got to get 6 laps the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Subaru Legacy Touring Sports RS. That's at a time of a 30.037. The Silvia is unlikely to beat that because Silvias are front-engined, rear-wheel drive and very drifty, which are two things that you do not want when it comes to taking on the Motorsports Land track. They're also turbocharged, and it seems like the turbo does kick in quite heavily on this. I think these are stage 3 turbos. 400 horsepower, actually quite a lot of power for sort of a mid-tier sports car by this game's reckoning. I think the place for this to aim would be for 8th place, which is the Nissan Fairlady Z 300ZX, which at the time of a 31.650. That wasn't racing modified, actually had 1 less horsepower than this, a lot more weight. But of course, 300ZX with that extra weight could keep the rear end in check. 300ZXs are also naturally a little bit more normal to drive, should we say. I guess that's the best way to put it. This one doesn't have racing modification. There's a reason why, and that's because there is another S14 Aero Ks that will have race mod because the stats are better, basically, which is why this one doesn't. And don't worry, I will be covering all the S14s and all the 200SXs because there's 2 of them. Yeah, I don't understand what the reasoning behind the regionalisation on these particular cars was, because like I said, none of them have the sort of trim or engines that you would get for like the 200SX, for example. None of them have it. There was no 200SXKs or 240SXKs and Qs and all this bollocks. So I don't even understand it. I don't for 100% know for certain whether the S14 was even sold in the United States. I know it was sold in the UK as the 200SX, and as I mentioned, there's 200SXs coming because they're the actual UMDM 200SX models. They have very slightly different rear bumpers and front bumpers. They basically made them uglier, is the way to think about it, because they had to include a rear fog light and I think a different reversing light, I want to say, is in the 200SXs. So yeah, that's the reason, that's the differences, and you'll see those when they come along. I think the engines are different as well, as I mentioned. These, I think, no, Silvias might have all been 2 litre. No wait, the Ks are all 2 litres, aren't they? Right? Or did Ks mean turbocharged in the end? I don't remember how Silvias work. 31848. Can we get anything more out of the Silvia, the very drifty Silvia? I say drifty, it's actually been pretty controllable to drive, really. It's just not well suited to this track, unfortunately. Yeah, that last lap really was a dud. 31.848. To be honest with you, it's not bad. It's about where I was expecting it to be perfectly honest. I was not expecting the Silvia Ks to be particularly quick. I'm not expecting any of the Nissan Silvias to be quick around here, apart from maybe one that we'll see later on. Just purely because they're not built for this sort of track. You know, front-engined, rear-wheel drive, driftiness. I've mentioned it, but I don't think these are going to be particularly quick around here, and I don't think there was really much more you could have got out of that. That was by far away my best lap. A 31.848 will put this car in to 9th place. It goes quicker than the Volkswagen Polo, loses out on the Nissan Fairlady Z by about 200th of a second. Yeah, not bad, but ultimately not brilliant. But we're not expecting any of these cars to be. Anyways, that's it for this edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. Do hope you've enjoyed, and join me next time when I'll be using something completely different. Until then, farewell.